dear listener, whoever told you that as long as it's vegan, it's healthy and wrote you a blank check for that and you made you think that deep fried Oreos and vegan gelato and you can eat 3 pizzas a day and you're going to be fine, like you won't be getting cholesterol, but it's still going to be fatty and have lots of sugar and extra salt.
Welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that has helped over 700 people transform their lives from all over the world on a plant-based lifestyle. This show is for you if you're looking to optimize your health, fitness, physique, while leveling up your mindset to live your life to your fullest potential. Enjoy the episode. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I am joined by Sargeant Vegan, Bill, who has been vegan since 1992, so 31 years, former U.S. Army paratrooper. Sargeant Vegan has accumulated a diverse life resume. He's been a combat veteran, martial artist, vegan chef, author of Vegan Strong, RN cardiac telemetry, fluent in both Japanese and American, world travelers to 47 countries, that's impressive, and then musician, Final Fantasy X soundtrack. Oh, that's cool. And then obviously your 3 mottos: strength, honor, and vegan. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah,
very stoked
very
to talk
excited
about vegan stuff.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I know that you live in the world because you have the cover of both your books behind you. So one is Vegan Strong and one is Dead Meat. And then the one in the middle has a blur on it, though.
That's The Adventures of Sergeant Piggy, my kids' book. So I have, on this side, I have Vegan Strong, which is for ages, I don't know, I would say 13, because there's a little bit of bad language in it, to whatever. Adventures of Sergeant Piggy, which is a kids' book for vegan. It's basically a vegan kids' book, picture book. There's so many... Nowadays, with so many vegans are having kids, but most of the books I've seen for vegan kids were kind of Debbie Downer, kind of just, oh, how bad the world is. But I mean, as you know, and as I would hope your listeners know, the world is an awesome place. I mean, granted, it's everything good and bad, so there's some bad to it, but to concentrate on the bad sucks. And then just in time for Halloween, my vegan horror novel, Dead Meat, yeah, they're all available on the Great Satan Amazon, so look any of them up.
Yeah, awesome. So before I dive into like what got you into writing, so you've been vegan for 31 years now. What kickstarted that journey? Because that was at a time where it wasn't cool to be vegan and there wasn't a lot of resources to transition.
Well, thank you very much for that question. And you're completely right. Somebody recently mentioned, and this has come up a couple times, like, whoa, you've been vegan. I think after 26 or 27 years, people would say, like, whoa, you've been vegan a long time. You've been vegan before it was cool, which makes me wonder, is being vegan cool? Like, I didn't really get that memo until recently. I was just doing it. I mean, especially for longtime vegans who are listening, you're going to know that for the longest freaking time, people would just give a shit. People would say, you know, either we're dumb, we're unhealthy, like, or, you know, 15,000, where do you get your protein, magnesium, and whatever questions, like someone just recently became a dietitian talking to you or something, you know? And mostly negative, like we're dumb hippies or what, you know, there's so many other issues. Why do we care about this issue? Blah, 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 blah. Until very recently, people would say like, whoa, that's awesome. In the beginning, there were no, whoa, that's awesome. That would be like, ugh, eye roll, or like, now there's something worse than a vegetarian, like you kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I got my start, I would say, completely by accident. My mom, who's very Catholic and very religious, asked me what I was going to give up for Lent. And this would have been Lent of, I think I did it all in 1 year. So it would have been like Lent of 1992. And for those that don't know, Lent is a 40-day period where Catholics give up something. And the idea is it's supposed to make them a better person, though. What usually they give up is coffee, and giving up coffee is not making anyone a better person, in my opinion. So I said, well, what's really going to get to my mom? being a little jerk, being a little punk rock jerk, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to give up meat, and that blew their minds. And they just, they thought, whoa, how am I going to survive the 40 days without eating meat? Granted,
Yeah,
at
like
that
ending up in the
point,
hospital or something.
yeah, they thought I was going to go straight to that protein deficiency, that fictitious ward that does not exist in the hospital of protein deficient vegans. It was going to be like direct admit. I was done for. I was a goner. At that point, I was a college. This was what would have been my freshman year of college. I was a college wrestler. I was in pretty good shape, working out constantly, and at the end of 40 days, what happened? Absolutely nothing other than I felt pretty good. And people just were astounded, like I was some medical miracle, this kind of like wonder of science that could never really exist. And people are like, well, somehow you've made it
got some
40 days
crazy
without
genetics.
eating meat. Like, do we need to bring you that emergency hamburger, kind of like this like fictitious Saint Bernard with, instead of like whiskey or a liquid in their little thing around their neck, they just had a hamburger. And I'm like, nah, I feel okay. And somewhere between, I guess, the end of Lent to the end of that year, at a punk rock show, because I was heavily into punk music, as I still am, I got a hold of one of those PETA pamphlets. And since the internet wasn't a thing in 1992, for those that remember or don't remember, it wasn't a thing. You couldn't look any of this up on the internet. Somebody gave me a pamphlet on what animal ag is doing to our world, the environmental impact, and a lot of it focused at that point on less on global warming and more on water consumption, and how if we stopped raising animals to kill for food, if we just raised vegetables and grains, we could feed the whole world. And it made me think, whoa, I could actually do something to change the world with just what I choose to eat for dinner.
Yeah.
And that hands-on approach, that I could actually do something to make the world a better place just in that simple choice, really grabbed me. And from there, I started to think about the ethical implications of being vegetarian. And it really became part of my consciousness. And that was in a very short period of time. I was studying sociology and stuff like that, as, really trying to open my mind to the world and remake myself the way I wanted to, and to be for the rest of my life. And somewhere in that summer, I got a hold of yet another PETA pamphlet on what dairy does, and how the dairy industry is killing cows. And it's not just some happy place, a farm where cows are all dancing and prancing and enjoying their lives. It's basically a slaughterhouse waiting to be, that calf that's born becomes veal, that milk is meant for baby cows, and that we're basically raping and stealing their milk and destroying their lives. And it became, at that point for me, a binary choice. How much animal cruelty am I okay with? Am I okay with a lot, a little? And I just came to the conclusion that the only answer for me is zero. And if the answer is zero, then it's a binary choice, vegan or not. If you're okay with animal cruelty and animal suffering, then you're going to be an omnivore, or a pescatarian, or a lacto-ovo, whatever nonsense. But if you don't want to participate in animal cruelty and animal suffering, you have to be vegan. That's just all it is. And someone asked me this yesterday, and I gave them a very short version of all this. But I did tell them that I've never looked back on this choice with any kind of regret. It's only been a positive thing for me. And for me, even though when I made that choice, I never thought I was going to be able to eat pizza like a normal person again, be able to have there were no veggie burgers, so I never thought that was going to be a thing. Yeah. And it's just been amazing to see the growth in this social justice movement from when I became vegan and all the things that I couldn't eat, to now, where as someone who works out, I have to specifically avoid eating delicious donuts. and all the kinds of stuff like that. Even if it's vegan, it's still not going to be, great, and it's going to get in the way of some a six-pack abs, Whereas back in the day, I might have choked the life out of someone for one of those donuts. A vegan donut,
Yeah.
it would have just, it would have just been a concept that I don't even think people would have even had in their minds, Like I remember putting sugar on a saltine because I wanted a cookie. And I'm not even
Yeah.
making this up. Like that, there were no vegan cookies, so I ate this saltine with sugar on it. And I remember someone looking at me, and I'm like, I'm just loving my cookies here. Like, yeah, vegan's blowing up. I love it. Just happy to
Yeah.
be alive.
Yeah, you just made me think of this because to me, I've been vegan for slightly over 9 years now.
Hmm.
So you had Oreos, right? I'm just trying to see when Oreos were created. It says
So
1912 here.
yeah, and Oreos weren't vegan for the longest time. It wasn't
Oh,
until sometime in the was it late 90s? See, when I went vegan originally, I remember reading. I mean, like everyone who goes vegan, when you go vegan, you have to read everything, and Oreos would have
yeah.
been out. I know they had something called Hydrox, and I'm sad that I have extra information, like knowing that there was this thing called Hydrox, which were like knockoff Oreos, and those were vegan. And it wasn't until relatively recent that I believe Oreos became vegan. At the same point, I lived from college till I joined the military. I was mostly in Japan, so things like what was happening in the States in the 90s kind of is I just didn't live it, so it wasn't part of my consciousness. And Oreos,
Yeah.
weirdly, in Japan, they were still putting dairy in them, so it would have just been off the table of things I could eat.
Yeah. So for you, it was like an actual real commitment to like, because when you went vegan, you're like, I will never be able to have a burger, a pizza, or some of the America's favorite food, which in my opinion, I feel like it's when I was vegan 9 years ago, like it was vegan burgers, like the Eves, like the really like black bean chickpea type of burger. But I feel like for people now, it's harder to eat healthy because now there are other alternatives. Like I'm gonna go vegan, I can still have pizza, ice cream, burgers, all that stuff, and then people are struggling with their weight because of that. They think that because it's vegan, magically the weight's not gonna be stacked on or the weight's gonna melt off. So
Well, let's not confuse our listeners. Vegan food is healthier, at least because there's no cholesterol in it. But
yeah,
if
for sure.
we're whoever told any the dear listener, whoever told you that as long as it's vegan, it's healthy and wrote you a blank check for that and you made you think that deep fried Oreos and vegan gelato and you can eat 3 pizzas a day and you're going to be fine, like I mean, you won't be getting cholesterol, but it's still
Yeah.
going to be fatty and have lots of sugar and extra salt. And those kind of foods, I mean, whether you're eating animal based or not, I mean, it's a separate conversation, really. But
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
it's still going to be about watching your calories. It's still going to be about watching your macros. It's still going to be about making sure you get enough nutrient foods. You're going to, in my opinion, and I believe in science, always be better to choose a plant-based or a vegan option. But unfortunately, you're going to still have to understand that even though Cookie Crisp, I believe, is vegan, you can't be eating 3 bowls of Cookie Crisp in the morning and think, well, I got a healthy, balanced vegan breakfast for me. Like it's just not. Like, I mean, and if you think that way, I mean, you're welcome to your opinion, but it's just not true. And I mean, some people
Yeah.
have a good metabolism and they'll be able to roll with that, but eventually eating Cookie Crisp for breakfast is going to catch up with you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love to talk about your military days because I know that for a lot of men, going vegan can be challenging because there's like the whole masculinity aspect associated to it. So obviously you went vegan, like I said, way before it was cool or way before men would have ever considered going vegan. And then in addition to that, you went into one of the environments which would be considered probably the most masculine in the world, which would be going in the military. So how many years were you vegan when you entered the military, and how was your experience when you were there?
So I was already vegan for 11 years when I joined the military. So
Okay.
it was pretty ingrained in me. I was well past the novice stages of like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah, or easily be influenced because you're way past that.
Or I was way past the time when someone just called me a fucking pussy for not eating meat was going to be like, oh my goodness, how could you say that? Like, or I haven't like, I don't give a fuck what people think of me. And I think when people do care that much, it makes life just such a hard thing. Like, life is amazing, but when you walk around with basically armor made out of paper, like the littlest drop of rain or the littlest pebble is going to hurt you. And, people gave me shit all the time for being vegan. But for the most part, I wouldn't say people were respectful of it, but I think the fact that I was a medic kind of bought me a little bit of I think if I was in the infantry as a vegan, there would have been too much of a contradictory kind of thing, and I would have I actually talked to, weirdly, a conscientious objector who was getting chaptered out or kicked out he had joined the infantry and decided that he couldn't do that. I just remember thinking, like, what did you think it was going to be like? Like, when you had that conversation, for me, I looked deep into my soul before I joined, and for me, it was actually, would I be able to wear the bullshit that had animals in it, like combat boots? Would that be? It's an ethical dilemma that I think at one point they had some non-leather boots. I mean, they have plenty of non-leather everything, but it all depends on what the regulations are, what you can get away with, what your command will let you wear. And when most of the points I was wearing jungle boots, which is like maybe 25% leather, which I had to buy at my expense, so I wasn't having to wear the leather. Really, what it came down to me was that war was going to kick off whether I was going to be a part of it or not. Most of my progressive and liberal friends just would spend their time sitting at home, yelling at the TV, and not really doing anything. And I thought, you know what? If somebody who's a longtime vegan and who wants to make the world a better place, hands-on, actually do something. If I joined as a medic and was able to go to war and be able to save lives, wouldn't that make the thing like wearing leather kind of almost like karma-wise neutralize it? I don't know. I still struggle with that sometimes, but it was a choice I made. And things like that just always kind of bugged me. But, I still did it. Basically, as far as the military goes, it was crazy to think even that, being a vegan there. But it really depends if we're going to boil the question down to how was it being a vegan in the military, it really depended on where I was stationed and what I was doing. Basic training was like a starvation camp for a vegan. I lost maybe 25 pounds. Losing 15 wasn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
But that final 5-10 pounds kind of was not great. Yeah. And we were usually working out about 14 hours a day on maybe 1,500 calories. It wasn't that someone was trying to force me to eat meat.
Yeah.
It just was, there was nothing to eat. Like, I would have cornflakes for breakfast. There was no rice milk, oat milk, soy milk. So I would just have them dry. And then when I got to a point where I couldn't eat them dry anymore, so I put like fruit cocktail, that shitty kind of clumpy,
just want
fruit
some
stuff on it.
Moist, some humidity to it or something. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, and then by the end of basic training, I would just pour coffee on it and then kind of like drink the coffee and eat it was unpleasant. And then lunch might be a salad sandwich because they had like an iceberg lettuce fixins bar, but no other vegetables other than maybe some tomatoes. So I would just get some Wonder Bread, which is nutritionally bankrupt but vegan.
Yeah. And
then put tomatoes and maybe dry rice, like white rice if I had it, and just eat that.
So whatever you could.
And the dinner was probably more rice and just awfulness.
Yeah.
Being a medic meant a little bit better of a chow hall. I think by 2002-3 there was already veggie burgers, and I think they had a vegan veggie burger because I remember having, it might have been a Boca burger or something like that, and that was much better. Airborne school was not too bad, and being deployed, as you can imagine, was its own, its own thing.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking is because my youngest brother joined the Canadian military, and he's not vegan, but he was talking about like the food and the training and everything. And I'm like, I wonder what people would do if they were vegan and want to go into the military. Like, is it friendly? Do you think it is more now than what it used to be? I think there's like more options available.
So the good news for anyone who's listening to this that's thinking of joining the military is I'm currently working on a campaign with a group called Mercy for Animals, and we're trying to push to have vegan MREs. And for those that don't know what an MRE is, MRE stands for Meals Ready to Eat. The military, we love our acronyms, and everything has to be some kind of thing like ETA, estimated time of arrival, MRE. Like, if I think about it, we probably had a whole conversations in like Wilco, will comply, will stuff like that. Almost everything is an acronym. So Meals Ready to Eat and there's two different cases of MREs, Meals Ready to Eat, and in each case of 12, two of those are designated vegetarian. Now, how much of that vegetarian, that 2,000 calorie meal can you eat that's vegan? Not a whole lot. Weirdly, when I was in the number 12, there's 24 meals, two different cases. The number 12, the bean burrito was, believe it or not, vegan. Was it good? No, no. It basically tasted like if you ate some play food that came with like this, like little kids get these play sets of like a refrigerator and a stove, and they're pretending to play cook.
Yeah.
That it tasted like it might have come out of that.
Yeah.
But if you put enough salt and Tabasco on it, you could woof it down before you had to, realize how gross it was.
Yeah.
So what I would have to do if I couldn't get that one is I would have to trade with people. I would have to barter, and then I would get usually wheat snack bread, which is just what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and some jelly, and I would eat that. But if we could get vegan MREs, we could call it vegan, we could call it plant-based. I don't care about what we're currently is in fashion to call it, as long as we get it.
Yeah.
And replace those vegetarian MREs with that. Maybe make it vegan, gluten-free, halal, and kosher. And that way we make everybody, more or less happy. You're never going to make everyone happy, but more or less happy.
Is there companies in the States that do that right now?
So there are I believe the contractors who make MREs are all stateside, and they're currently making, a company will make all of them. And they're basically, it's probably a parent company, and then they have subsidiaries that are making little things like a company happens to make coffee sticks, and then they sell them to them, and then they put that package all together. Because the MRE package, it's meant to be brought into any kind of environment. So in this package that's about yay big, the size of a book, there's like a whole bunch of different little things separately packaged. So one company puts it all together. They then contract out or subcontract out to all these other little companies. And so far the government hasn't specifically said, hey, make these vegetarian ones vegan. And until they do, there's no incentive for them to change anything.
Yeah.
And most of those meals, I think, in my opinion, are going to be very easy to veganize, because all you got to do is, for the pasta with vegetables, which is another one of the vegetarian things, it contains, I believe the package said, less than 2% of egg whites. Say, hey, no more egg whites. Done.
Yeah.
And then there was a veggie burger, make it a vegan burger. None of this has to be hard, and nobody's asking for like some kind of craziness. We just want it to be vegan.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting because a lot of staying in the food space, a lot of restaurants are going to have like a Beyond Burger or something like that, but then there's melted cheese on top of it, or there's an egg with it. I was like, you were almost there. There was just one thing you had to not put in a sandwich to make it vegan. That'd be a cool company to start. The MRE meals for military that would be vegan or plant-based.
Well, there's companies that make stuff like that for camping specifically, but I think the contracts for I don't think our play is to get one company that makes that specifically, that put together the whole vegan thing. I think our play is specifically to get the government to get the company who makes that
Yeah.
to just change it, because I think they're contracted to do everything, and I'm sure they're not going to like release their power of all that money that's going to those meals.
Yeah.
But what they would do if Uncle Sam was able to push, especially call it a green initiative, like, hey, it's a green initiative. It doesn't use all of the doesn't cause the carbon footprint that even the vegetarian meals are causing. I think we'd have something there if we were able to talk to the government. Mercy for Animals has been pushing. So far, things haven't changed. I've talked to people who they think they know somebody who's close to it, who says that it's changing. I don't know. After working, I work for the government. I work for the government now. I work for the VA as well. At 15 plus years with Uncle Sam, I don't really trust anything until I see it. So, and definitely goes for this as well. I don't think I believe it until I actually see it online or have one of them in my hands.
Yeah. Well, so basically those meals is just like you add water, for example, like hot water, and then it's kind of like ready to go.
So basically what it is, in the package, you rip it open. There's about maybe 10 different little thin boxes, about some of the size or the thinness of my phone. And it would be, you get a main entree. You got like maybe some fruit slush. You'll get some crackers, or you'll get a wheat snack bread, which basically it's like this really thick bread. Some peanut butter, some jam. The other ones are going to have obviously meat-based stuff. You're going to have a little condiments package with a whole bunch of stuff and a spoon. You don't need to add water for any of it unless you want to heat it up.
Okay.
You'll get what's called an MRE heater with this green thing. You rip the top off. You pour a little bit of water. You put the thing that you want to heat in it. You tuck it over, and it'll activate this heating component, and that'll make the thing sizzle. You're just going to have to lie it not flat, but kind of on a little bit of an angle for about 3 minutes, and then the thing will heat up. And it won't be delicious, but it probably won't be nutritious, but it'll be very heavy in the calories. It's meant for like you airdrop or throw them at the guys and gals who are sitting out in the field for 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
That's all pretty much. I remember eating just that when I was on this operation called Operation Red Wings. We were supposed to go out for 3 days. I brought as much stuff as I could, and then it became a week, and that became 2 weeks, and then I think it went up to maybe like just shy of 3, and we were allowed to leave. And yeah, you just eat that. So if you're vegan, it just means you're just eating peanut butter and crackers for 2-3 weeks, and that wasn't that bad for me because I'd gone through the 90s and I had those days. But I could see how if you're used to living it up how we do now
in LA,
in 2023, it might be kind of rough to go back to a time where that's all you can get.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. So it was definitely more testing and challenging back then. Like your willpower to stay vegan was definitely more tested than it would be today, ultimately.
Well, I think are we talking just in general or in that scenario in the military?
Because if you are like vegan now and then were to go in the militaries and not have the options that people are used to, kind of like we talked about, I think like for a lot of people that are in it for the trend, not necessarily like for the right reasons, I think these guys would find that challenging.
I think it too depends on, I'm sure you have international listeners. I believe it's different in Britain. I think the Canadian military is different as well. I really do think it just depends on where you're serving. It depends on which military. Obviously, American's different than Canadian, which is it's different from Britain. I think some militaries in some countries you're able to classify being vegan as a religious preference, and that puts you in a different category.
Okay.
Also, it definitely depends on where you are, where you're stationed. I was stationed in Italy. It was amazing. So when I wasn't in training and I wasn't in Afghanistan, my life was awesome. Food was amazing. I mean, I'm hoping. Have you been to Italy?
I have. I lived there for a bit.
Oh, I mean, then it's amazing. But even in the early 2000s, they had there was a vegan restaurant near where I lived. And we would go through we would have to do some full like wear all your equipment that's full battle rattle, and then do some like ruck march with carry all your equipment and a rifle and do that through the streets and sometimes it'd be a lot of miles, but then at the end of it, we would sit and drink like a Americano in a piazza somewhere. Just living in Italy was great, and I loved it. The only thing that possibly was bad is I was a victim of maybe too good a scenario, and which killed some of my potential to get abs. I was probably one of the chubbier vegans that people had ever met at that point, because while I was running an average of 5 miles a day, sometimes up to 15, sometimes we'd run and ruck march and working out and lifting. I would eat usually one large pizza a day.
Yeah.
Like on an average day. So,
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like some little thing like that. And definitely not gluten-free. All the glutens, no cheese, but vegetables and sauce. And I would eat usually one of those. I would get a kilo of soy gelato a week.
Yeah.
And all the like cappuccinos made with rice milk that I could get my hands on. Every pasta, every kind of fake meat thing. Like, I'm sure I was burning 3,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was probably eating 4,500 calories a day. So there was, you can't do that and expect things are going to work out for you. And I remember being mystified how I was putting on so much weight. Like,
Yeah.
not even if I had just looked at it and said like, hey, dude, maybe don't eat a large pizza every day.
Yeah. Every 2 days at least. They could have good pizza over there, though. Have good pizza, have good pasta.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it's delicious. Cool. So, question for you. So, you just made me think of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, you were living off like white rice cake, wheat bread, like a bean burrito from time to time. So, ultimately, your calories were very low for a long time when you were in training camp and all that. So,
It all depends, again, where I was at. Basic training, I would say I was at 1,500 calories. So think of three months, because pre-basic training, there was this whole holding pattern thing where all you do is work out and eat, but I wasn't eating.
Yeah.
Then 2 months of basic training, then straight to airborne school. Well, no, not straight to airborne school. Then to medic training, and where it went from a very strict, crazy, I went to basic training where they train the infantry in Fort Benning, to soft skill MOSs and medics, and it was like a completely different thing. There were people there, like where I was doing basic training, if you weren't in shape, you were going to get stomped.
yeah.
And then going from that to, there's kind of overweight medics and stuff like that. Like, it was a totally different world. It was more just academic. They needed people who weren't going to fuck up and kill somebody
Yeah.
while they're trying to save them,
Yeah. Understandable.
And then it was really as much as I could possibly want, probably 2,000 to 3,000. Then airborne school, kind of sort of back to training, but then I could go get food on the weekends. And some nights, I would say when I was in garrison with the 173rd Airborne, I would say most of those days I was up to maybe 3,000 to 4,000 calories. But then back to Afghanistan, then at least until I figured out how to get food sent to me, I was back to sub 2,000, probably 1,800 calories. What food I had brought with me originally was all I ate, and then Cliff Bars and ramen noodles.
Yeah. So I just want to point out for the people listening that like you were still able to perform and be physically active, even though you were under eating and you were vegan and you still were alive, you still were strong, we're still able to move forward. So for the people that kind of listening to this is like, well, if I don't eat enough food, if I don't hit my protein, if I don't have enough calories, I won't be able to exercise. Like you're out here exercising 10 hours a day, severely under eating, barely getting any form of protein, and just loading up on carbs, basically, and you're able to make it happen. So just see like,
Oh yeah, you're completely correct. I would say very little protein, extremely high carbs.
Yeah. So it just shows the resiliency of the human body. Once, if you want to do something, regardless of what's the food that's in your body, you'll be able to make it work.
Very true. And I think people, I don't want to say people are too spoiled, because I really don't think
Well, I'll put it this way.
things can be too good
The world
for
got
the vegan
soft
movement.
over the past few years.
Well, true. I mean, I think there is that, but I guess in big picture wise, there's no limit to the good that they can make vegan.
Yeah.
However, big picture wise too, just because Daiya makes a vegan cheesecake doesn't mean you should eat 3 of them every day. Like,
It's good. It's good
the
logic.
proper amount of cheesecake to eat a day, vegan or not, is mostly 0.
Yeah.
Except you have 1 piece every now and again. Like,
Yeah. Awesome. I love to talk about your books. So the latest one is Dead Meat. When is that live now?
Yep. So all 3 of these books are available on the, I can't say enough, the Great Satan Amazon. I think Amazon is a wonderful thing and bad thing. I mean, it has been doing bad things to companies, and it's probably made more mom and pop shops go out of business, and there's a lot of bad to it. But if you're an author, Amazon makes it possible for you to have a book if mainstream publishers didn't put it out.
Yeah.
I say, why, even though nowadays vegan stuff is becoming more popular, when I wrote Vegan Strong, I think it threw a lot of the mainstream kind of hippie publishers for a loop, because they were like, vegan, but where's the tie-dye? I got camouflage on it. Like, Vegan Strong, I think they wanted vegan. Yeah, they wanted vegan week.
Yeah.
And that wasn't my mentality. I want, Vegan Strong is a field manual on how to be vegan and kick ass. And I think that's not what the popular idea of vegan was when I started shopping around in 2016. So I just went it alone with Amazon.
Yeah.
Adventures of Sergeant Piggy. Again, kind of the same thing. I think what sells more to a lot of the vegan hippies is the weepy, sad, look how, malnourished this fish is or whatever. And I'm like, hey, like, being vegan rules. Pigs are awesome. I'm going to make the pig, the main character. And it's cute and very sunny and awesome. But again, I think it depends on, knowing your audience. If I had, written a book for kids on, I don't know, what's popular that hippies might get into, like a kid book for intermittent fasting or something stupid like that. Like, and kids should never be doing any of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's hippies that would have been into that. And lastly, Dead Meat. I think the idea of a vegan horror novel, like everybody knows, the whole meat industry is just awful. It's the worst, scariest, most disturbing thing. If you ever watch actual footage of what it is and what they do, it's just rotten and awful. And the idea of farming humans in the same way as an allegory, I thought, couldn't have been scarier. Well, I think it's amazing, and they're all available on Amazon, so you're more than welcome to check it out, listeners.
Yeah, I'll put all the link down below for people to easily access them, to be able to check them out. Also put the link to your page and your social media as well.
Cool, thank you.
Love to ask you, for the people that are, I would say like it's about a 50-50 split of people that are vegan and then some that are veg curious, that are interested in kind of like transitioning, eating more plant-based. So what would be your piece of advice for people that are looking to transition to eating more plant-based, and then your piece of advice for people that are vegan but are just looking to kind of like level up?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. My first thing would be, for people considering going vegan, I would say definitely do it. Going vegan is one of the best things you could do for, obviously, the animals, for the environment, and for your health. Also know that even if something is vegan, even though I just said for your health, it, like we had covered earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. And it doesn't necessarily mean you should eat a bunch of it, i.e. Oreo cookies, vegan cheesecake. Even though it says vegan, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a calorie-free, guilt-free thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you just ate 1,000 calories of cheesecake, you should feel guilty for it, because you shouldn't be doing that on a daily basis. Like, it's There's a whole bunch of other great things to eat. I would say watch the documentaries, whatever is popular, whatever the people are recommending, do that. Don't necessarily think you need to go cold turkey. Think, or cold tofurkey, as some people have said. Crowd out the things that are animal based, i.e., so you're going to have coffee in the morning. Okay, if you're not drinking a black like I normally do and you want a creamer in it, get a non-dairy creamer. So replacing things that you normally would buy some animal product with something that's a one-to-one transition to having a vegan product, Impossible, Beyond Burgers, even Boca Burgers, which still exist. Instead of another burger, there's a billion vegan animal, kind of like animal protein copy things. So you can eat the same dishes and not feel like you're having to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Sometimes people enjoy cooking different things and trying different things, and I think that's great. But I think being able to make the same stuff very easy, it's like it's like pasta night. Well, normally you would have sausage with it or meatballs. Well, why don't you do Gardein or Beyond Meatballs? Done. All that being said, I think if you're vegan and you just first go vegan and you're like, all right, do, and you start to not feel like you have enough energy, as sometimes it happens, or you feel like you're losing too much weight, that might mean nothing, not that vegan's wrong or even that you're necessarily doing it wrong, but you might not be eating enough calories. Yeah. If you normally eat 2,000 calories a day and you change everything up and you're like, okay, you were sedentary, meaning you just sat on your ass all day, and then you ate 2,000 calories. And now, you watch this documentary, you're like, okay, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm like working with Maxim. We're going to kill it in the gym. And now you're burning all these calories. But then after you went vegan, you went on a mostly salads thing. You can't have that much of a caloric deficit and have it not hurt you. Yeah. When I was in basic training, working out 13 hours a day on 1,500 calories, did I do it? Yeah. Did it suck? It certainly fucking did.
But you're hungry.
And that would not be something that I would recommend for you. Whoever's listening to this, you don't want to do that. So make sure that you're getting enough calories, your macros. I mean, there's so many different versions of what percentages. I'm sure Maxim can tell you what his personal favorites are. Follow that, and as long as you're getting enough calories, and as long as if you think you're missing something, you take a vitamin, you're going to be fine. There's really no reason to overcomplicate this stuff. But if you don't put enough gas in the car's not going to run,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bill, I want to say a massive thank you for taking the time to jump on the podcast. It was a pleasure to connect with you and to share your story with people. I just dove a little bit deeper in the military stuff because I just had my own curiosity.
That's cool.
I almost ended up joining the Canadian military when I was younger, when I went out of school. And then I went to the office and I had all the paperwork, and then we were talking, and then I don't know how it came up, but they're like, oh, you might, after schooling, you have to do your time. You might be deployed. And then we're talking about getting shot at. And I was like, oh, fuck that. I don't want to get shot at. And I was like, I'm just going to go a different direction with my life. And I left the office, but I was close to signing. But it was I didn't think about the fact that guns and bullets would be involved. All I want is I love the strict disciplined lifestyle. That's how I've always lived. So I was like, I just want that to the max. I didn't think about the gun part. I just wanted the lifestyle part. And so I was like, you know what?
There probably would have been a job for you and there's, for anyone listening, there's so many different jobs in the military.
Yeah. I know that now.
But there's one constant in it, is that no matter what military you join, it's a Ponzi scheme in that it's not going to work out for everyone. Mm-hmm. Two people can join they could do the same job, and they're going to have vastly different outcomes. One person will have a positive experience, one might have a negative experience, and it's a crapshoot. You could join trying to do the craziest, most dangerous thing and come out without a scratch. You can join the Air Force Chair Force and somehow die in a training accident. Which it happens, or something awful happens to you. you just have to be ready to roll them dice. And for the people who joined and who served, whatever country, thank you for your service, especially if you joined our military, joined here in the States, thank you for your service. And for kids that are thinking about joining, I would say definitely possible. Definitely do some research before you go in. Branch specific, sometimes it's a little bit easier to be vegan.
Yeah.
And job specific,
Yeah. So I'll get people listening. If you have any questions for Bill, just reach out to him on his Instagram or his social media platforms. Especially if there's a vegan component, I'm sure he'd be able to help you, support you guys in that. For everyone, thank you very much for listening to the episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Be sure to like it if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, leave a 5-star review, go check out Bill's awesome books, go support him on social media, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.